This week on the Notorious Scoundrels podcast.
Notorious.
Scoundrels!
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a podcast focused on tactics and competitive play for Star Wars Legion. Hosted by Kyle Dornbos, Michael Barry, and David Zelenka, with Jay Shalansky, the man behind the glass.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle, and I learned how to say our podcast nickname.
Take that, Jay.
Our nickname? It's not our nickname.
No, it's our name. Yeah. It's
Great. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah. See, I even messed that part up. But I said Notorious, right? Anyway, I'm here with Mike and David.
Hey,
What's up?
I'm pretty good. I had my first game playing as droids against shorelines this past week.
How was
Man, was I miserable. I've never played a game where I've felt more helpless.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they just, they don't have a lot of tools right now, especially to deal with that.
yeah. I was like, we're playing key positions, and I don't know how you deal with like range 4, 5 die through heavy cover shots against droids. It just seems real bad.
Yeah, I mean, and stylistically, like at least core set, both droids and clones are kind of built as gun lines, just because they only have access to 3 units.
Yeah.
And Empire just has far more tools for that. So, like, you're just playstyle wise, you're kind of forced into a gun line fight, and
Yep,
Empire's better at it.
They are. To be fair, Grievous ended up carrying the day. I did win the game.
Yeah, what are you complaining about that?
But it was like one of those games where Grievous like back capped their KP, and like the rest of my army was in shambles. Like I took the middle KP with a pair of droidecas, and all of my B1s were panicking off the board in various directions.
I mean, just like the movies then.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
And that's, aside from the panicking off the board all the time situation, that is kind of how droids play. Like, you have your gigantic, awesome centerpiece in Grievous, and you've got a bunch of cannon fodder to support him, and sometimes they die.
Speaking of droids and being helpless against Empire, I think one of my favorite moments from Invader League single eliminations was Grievous engaged by Royal Guard, and medics just continually reviving the Electro staff. Just keep Grievous pinned down without Pierce. It's just the almost awful feeling when Grievous doesn't have any token help, and he's kind of just like, I can't get past these saves. Oh darn.
Yeah, and he doesn't. I mean, he's got disengage on his 1-pip, but he doesn't have force push. So
Yeah, so he's just kind of stuck.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, man. That pistol is so good.
It
like
is.
You're just like, I ended up in melee with Bosk, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna pick off unit leaders as I like. I'm gonna throw 4 dice at you with my light save 5 because I had tenacity on them, and then like shoot like a sniper team or something, and it was brutal.
It's
a pretty neat trick.
Yeah.
Do you call it like tempo or something when you have a unit that can attack two things at once? I mean, I guess you just call that a tempo boost. It really seems like heroes that can attack 2 things are just a cut above. I'm thinking Grievous and Sabine and Han, even like anything with Gunslinger, or even like Boba with Arsenal, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I've played a lot of Boba, and don't get me wrong, Arsenal 2 is really good, but it's a whole nother level when you can Arsenal 2 and be in melee and shoot at something that's not in melee with you.
Right.
Like, it's so much better.
Well, Grievous also has twice as many dice as Boba Fett does.
That's also true. That's also true.
Wings,
And the critical on the gun certainly helps.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. I mean, it makes Boba's Arsenal kind of look.
Yeah, it's like if I roll a crit or a surge, you just die. Like that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's a T21B in pistol form.
Yeah, literally.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It's got Pierce. T21B doesn't have Pierce.
Yeah.
Oh boy, if it did, we'd have a lot of pissed off players.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're not talking about
Rebels.
We're actually not talking
No.
about the T21B this episode.
Shocking.
We are going to. We actually had an preview article this past week, talking about the Clone and CIS Specialist packs. We're also going to talk about standbys with clones in our Legion 101 section. And there's a non-zero chance that we're going to have an interview, depending on if our interviewee makes it home safely or not. So he's currently fighting Bantas and Wookiees and such to make it home. So we'll see if that happens or not. But in the meantime, let's talk some news.
Welcome to In the News.
So we got a real preview article this past week with the CIS upgrade expansion and the clone upgrade expansion, including some new weapons and also some personnel upgrades. What do you guys think?
Let me pull it up real quick.
So
I'm looking at the article about the droids so far, and I am modestly impressed. But I mean, they seem to be like paying for convenience in a lot of these upgrades. For example, the integrated comms antenna, which is this comm upgrade, it says you can be issued orders by friendly commander or operative units at range 1 to 4. So I mean, that's kind of nice, but it's like doesn't commanding presence do the same thing for 5 points on a global level? Whereas integrated comms antenna does it for 1 unit for 3 points. It seems like, not the best.
I think it's relevant here to talk about a couple things. The first is that
sure.
If you're taking overwhelming, inspiring presence or whatever it is,
commanding presence.
Commanding presence.
Yeah.
There's like so many interchangeable words that can be
different game with inspiring presence.
So that's taking up a strict orders or aggressive tactics slot, right? For starters,
right?
So, with that being said, this card is terrible. Okay, if you're at range 4 of your commander, just issue the order to a B1 that's within range 3 of your commander, and then have it give it to the unit that's at range 4, right? Like, I don't understand why you'd ever take this card.
Right. It says droid trooper only, so it's not like you could slap this on a droidica or something where it might actually see some use.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm confused.
I would, so aside from the weapon upgrades, I would sort of characterize the droid upgrades in this pack as like mistake mitigation. This one doesn't really make any sense to me, but the OOM series droid, which is allows you to coordinate at range 1 to 2, and then the security droid basically removes AI attack. Those are both like, if those kick in, you've made a mistake somewhere else, essentially. I could actually see the security droid in a situation where you're worried about jammer tauntauns, because if you don't have a face up, it still lets you withdraw. Since you're cutting.
Yeah, that's nice insurance, huh?
But the OOM series droid lets you kind of extend your gaps a little more. But these are both kind of expensive upgrades compared to like just an extra body. The security droid is 9, so that's 50% more. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 3 more points than 6. Yeah, so the security droid, is kind of like Tauntaun jammer insurance, and then the OOM series droid lets you kind of extend your gaps a little bit. But
yeah, I think I was going to say something about AI attack and intercept the transmissions, for example.
As far as like,
where AI attack can totally screw you.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I think I've had AI proc a total of 1 time in the various CIS games that I've played, and it was in our stream game a couple weeks ago. Like notionally, I agree, but assuming that you're preserving unit leaders and stuff correctly, like you shouldn't even have to worry about AI most of the time because you're gonna have face-up borders, assuming that you set up your line and everything correctly. Now, obviously, jammers get in the way of that, which is why I think it's potentially important if you're worried about jammer tauntauns, which.
So is it even good against jammer tauntauns is the real question. Because I would pose this. Generally speaking, if you're engaged with the tauntaun, you don't care about AI attack.
Well, you do in that it prevents you from withdrawing.
Sure, but you're not like gonna. I don't know. I sort of feel like you don't withdraw in that scenario generally.
I mean, well, I think so. It depends on when it happens. If it happens at the beginning of the turn, you definitely want to for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
The first is, and actually Kingsley mentioned this last week, like droid units are big, right? So if they like ram one unit and then move into another unit, that second unit will wrap them completely. And if you have Grievous, you won't even be able to get in there to attack the tauntaun because you have 8 dudes in your unit. Potentially as many as 8 dudes, anywhere from 6 to 8. So, and their melee attack is horrible. It's white dice, no surge.
I mean, a B1 unit, even with 8 guys, should not wrap 2 tauntauns.
Yeah, 2 tauntauns. I guess it depends on if it's one model or 2.
Yeah, if it's one model, then sure. But like a full tauntaun unit, you should not be. I mean, like I suppose you could choose to wrap them, but that would be a poor choice on your part.
Man, I have a great tangent that I'm totally not going to embark on because we have to talk about this upgrade pack.
Okay.
But what are you going to do about that tail? Because that tail sticks out over the base. So how can you actually wrap it? Because you're always going to have a gap. I don't know. I guess you'll have to make it smaller than a unit's base, but whatever, man.
The dewback is actually worse in that respect. But that's,
for sure.
That's a whole nother like etiquette / rules topic that maybe we should tackle next week.
Yeah.
I think in terms of this upgrade, it's actually so. I think it's interesting in that this upgrade is really 3 points in my mind, just because right now. Everybody's taking the extra B1 model anyways, right?
Yeah, because you only have so many units to take. So yeah,
like people are taking full B1 units right now. So the B1 security droid is really 3 points to be able to ignore AI attack once in a while. Which, if you have some extra points to spend, not that big a deal.
Yeah, it seems fine. I wouldn't buy this pack for that unit.
No.
But if you've got it and you've got an
reasons.
extra 9 points, then yeah, I could see it.
It's worth noting that if you are going to play this upgrade, it's pretty much only good against like comms jammer shenanigans for the most part, unless you've made an error, which sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Which is relevant because you probably want this unit to be farther up towards the front to take the charge so that you can then actually use the upgrade. Like, if they're going to charge a unit, you want it to be this one.
Yep, accurate.
So that's just something to keep in mind.
All right, should we talk about these weapons? Because they're far more interesting.
Yeah, let's do that. You'll start with the t-shirt cannon. I mean, the radiation gun.
The t-shirt cannon, he says.
Yeah, that is what it looks like, actually.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I haven't seen these sculpts in person, but I hope the barrel of the gun is not actually flat like that. It looks really weird.
You mean the front of it?
Yeah, just like it looks like a sawed off.
It looks.
I don't know.
It looks like a
cylinder.
t-shirt cannon. I mean, look at the art on the card. It's.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. It's just it looks weird.
Launching radioactive t-shirts.
It feels weird to me that like the barrel isn't hollowed out a little bit. I don't know.
Well, these are only like the second iteration of hard plastic that they've done. So
I know. I guess I'm,
just use a hobby drill, Mike.
I understand.
If it really bothers you.
Yo, this gun is good.
Yeah, it is. There's one bad thing about it. and it's that it's range 2, which is
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it's 2 red dice, which is great, and it's got poison 1 on it, which is also great.
It's the poison 1 that really seals the deal on this bad boy. This turns a B1 unit into like a character hunting like machine.
Yeah, if you hit something that is damage resilient, like a Jedi or a Tauntaun, or clones, something with a good, really anything with a good save,
Yeah.
and you push a wound through, like you're just gonna straight up do an extra wound the next time that thing goes.
Yeah.
And
like
that's huge.
hitting Palpatine with this is like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you manage to get through a save, yeah, you basically doubled your damage if you only got one through. But that's all it takes, right? You just have to wound something, which is the challenge. But hopefully, the 2 red are going to help you get there, because like whatever paint you do roll is going to pass through cover in all likelihood, because the 2 reds are going to come out hits. It's like a 75% on both to hit. So
Yeah, and you're probably gonna have a surge token or whatever. Hopefully.
Well, and you got a bunch of white dice also in that pool to help you out.
Right, so you could roll like 4 crits and then just laugh and be like, "Yeah, there's a radiation cannon in there." Yeah. Have fun with that.
It's a very hard hitting short range weapon.
Oh yeah.
I could easily see now it's 22 points, which makes it the most expensive of the various B1 heavies. But
for good reason.
Yeah, right. But I could see having, this dude can still throw a white dice at range 3. I could see having like one of these in your list for those close range threats, especially if you're running. We're not going to talk about Dooku this week because we don't have all his cards in English. But if you're running him with Force Push, it's a great like aggressive unit counter, and this thing is great at damaging all of those units that you would be force pushing. So
yeah,
it's solid. It's range 2 is short, range 2 is pretty limiting, but these guys are a lot cheaper than fleets. So
yeah, it's worth noting that like 25 to 30% of the meta is not going to get hit by this gun for the most part right now.
Oh, you mean as far as like droids?
Yeah, I mean like you can hit Grievous with it.
Yeah.
But generally, if Grievous is at range 2 of you, he's in melee with you. So,
right.
It's a little bit short sighted there. I don't know.
But yeah,
that's the only downside, I think.
Yeah, and it works. It works great against everything else that you target with it. So, the other thing in here, the sniper rifle, which is the
E5S.
E5S. Yes, I'm sorry. They're all they all start with E. I want to make sure that. Yeah, the E5C is the 3 black, no keyword one. This one is range 1 to 4, red white critical 1, 20 points. Thoughts?
Oh, that scope is actually attached to his faceplate.
It is. So, you're taking this gun for the critical 1, not the range. It is my opinion about this. I think that generally speaking, yeah, I don't know. I just like if for whatever reason you do end up triggering AI and you're at range 4 of something, it's a real feel bad. Now that shouldn't happen,
right? So I actually have the reverse opinion. I think you're paying for the range when you're buying this thing.
Really,
and that's because it is less good than the E5C when you have an aim token, because the E5C has 3 blacks and this thing just has a red. You're probably going to hit on the red, and then you're going to be re-rolling 2 whites. With the E5C, there's a much better chance that you're re-rolling 1 or more black dice. So this thing is actually worse when you have an aim token than the E5C is. It's also...
How often do you have an aim token, though?
Whenever you're in like a range 3 gunfight, you're doing aim shoot. No, you're probably doing moon shoot quite a bit.
Yeah. Also. I don't know. I feel like critical 1 is roughly equivalent to an aim token in a B1 pool.
Yeah, I mean, it's so in a pool with like 8 dice in it, critical one or a surge token is worth about 0.75 hits, roughly.
Yeah.
But the E5C also has better raw dice. It's got 4 blacks, which is 1.5 hits. This thing is a red and a white, which is 1 hit. So
it's got 3 blacks.
I'm sorry. I said 4. I meant 3. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, 12 out of 8 is 1.5, and then this thing is 8 out of 8. So, it's like when you add in the critical, it's what is that, 0.25 hits better on average than the E5C.
Yeah.
If you're not aiming. So, is that worth 2 points? Maybe. But I think if you're getting this thing, you're paying for the range 4, the ability to shoot it and suppress things at range 4 with critical. Now it's a liability if you've got AI triggered, but hopefully you're not in that situation. So that's my view on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I put this side by side with the rocket, and I think to myself, what role is this actually filling in my list? Because I kind of feel the same way. I think that like critical, not backed up by enough dice on its own, I guess that's kind of nice against the factions that don't save half the time or more. But in terms of like vehicle killing power, in my current, spread of units, there is nothing else to take that can kill vehicles at range with any degree of like certainty.
Yeah, and it's the same cost as the rocket. It's also worth sort of mentioning in that like you're gonna have 1 to 2 B1s with uplinks in your army.
Right. So the rocket's not really a tax.
Right.
It's actually Impact 2 just has it's narrower, but it's better at that job of killing armor.
Right.
And I think armor, is we're going to see, more vehicles. We're going to see, maybe the ATS team makes a comeback or something because of this Tauntaun nonsense. You never know. So just keeping an open mind, and saying, hey, if vehicles do come back, or if I'm in a tournament, I face, let's say triple RT, right? I'll have something that's really, really good at killing them at range. And they probably will have a hard time keeping up with it because of Impact 2 and then all the random crits I'm getting if I'm fishing with my other units.
Yeah, I think all of the various droid weapons are interesting, like side grades, in my opinion. I know there are people out there that saying your default choice should just be the sniper rifle, but for all the reasons we discussed, I don't think it's quite that straightforward.
Yeah, I think the radiation cannon is the standout because poison is really good.
Yeah, it's just range 2 is super limiting. I definitely don't think you want to take like 6 radiation guns.
You don't. You want to take like maybe 1 to 2, but even then, like,
I don't know, man.
It's phenomenal.
So the thing about it is like you want the B1s to get close anyways. Right? Like they got to get up in there to do their damage. So like why not just like go all in on it? I mean, it's probably not great now because we don't have supporting units. But like I could see a world where, the AAT or whatever it is just like firing away and they have to deal with that instead of focusing on your, advancing B1s with radiation cannons.
Yeah. I can see it. I don't think you want 6. That's a lot of eggs in the short range basket, in my opinion.
Yeah. You can still fire 8 dice at range 3, which is like not that different. You're pretty much almost always rolling crits on, or like fishing for crits on the B1 pool anyways, I found.
Right. Like you only lose 3 face. You lose not even 3 facings. Like what do you lose?
Well, it depends.
You lose 3 facings at range 3.
Yeah, it depends on whether you have surge tokens or not, but yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. All right. Well, those are the droid weapons. Should we talk about the clone upgrades and then the weapons?
I think the clone upgrades are much more interesting, personally.
I agree. Go on.
Okay, so I guess we'll just start on that. So the shotgun, I think that's a shotgun. The DP-23.
Yeah,
is that a shotgun?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
You're giving Pierce to face one core units. I don't know. Seems excellent.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's a little expensive, I guess, but it's only like 2 points more expensive than a Z6.
Yeah, it's only 2 more than a Z6. It's cheaper than a DC-15.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just seems really good. And I don't know. Just adding Pierce to core units seems really good. Like fleet troopers would be excellent if they could base shoot range 3 and flop to a range 2 gun that had Pierce when they needed it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like if you could give Rebel troopers the fleet shotgun.
Yeah, which you would.
Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely would.
Like,
You absolutely would.
Yeah.
and this thing's real nasty once you factor in fire support.
Yep, totally.
You're like, oh, I'm gonna fire support this bark with my Pierce unit. Gross.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah, it hits hard, that's for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's phenomenal. I love it.
And what's the other one? The other one is the
rocket,
RPS 6.
rocket.
which doesn't exhaust.
Yeah. This
Hooray.
This is like.
Go.
I was gonna say this is the only dedicated core unit anti-armor weapon that does not exhaust.
Doesn't
I mean,
the
that's
new
amazing.
Rebel shotgun?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I mean that's only range 2, and it's just impact 1. So it's.
Yeah, I know. I just whatever.
I wouldn't.
Saying Rebel's got it too, man.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Range 2 doesn't exist in this game, don't you know?
We just talked about range 2 being really good
I know we did.
on 2 separate units.
Lies. No, I'm just kidding.
Those units are also both much more durable than Rebel troopers. But
And both of those units also have essentially Pierce attached to them in some fashion.
Yeah.
Impact is significantly less good than Pierce generally.
For a shotgun.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this guy's really good. I wish that the Imperial rocket launcher guy read like this.
Yeah. It's also a great dice pool. It's rainbow, red, black, white. So that's a.
What did they change the HH12 to? I know they readjusted it, right? The HH12, they adjusted it down.
Yeah,
I think it
used to be
points.
32.
I think it's 24.
I think it's the same as the GLT now, or something
that's
like
a lot better.
Yeah, it's 24. It's -8.
Yeah.
It's still you have to exhaust it.
Yeah, not ideal.
No.
Yeah, that's
So when's my land speeder rocket going to cost this much, guys? Never. Speaking of tangents. Anyhow, yeah, I mean this is pretty darn nice. I mean the rainbow dice, of course, are great. The fact that it has 3 dice is also great too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is when do you want this? And the answer is pretty much only if vehicles are a thing. I think.
I could see it as like a one of.
Yeah.
Yeah, cumbersome is still pretty darn restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
So you slave it on the back unit, the unit that's in your backfield, and you just rocket forward.
yeah. Yeah, it's worth noting that it's somewhat better than a DC 15 in a unit that is abusing standby tokens.
Yep.
Just because it's got more dice.
It's cheaper.
But it's also cheaper. Yeah.
Right. It's not 30.
Yeah. I think this is serviceable. This will be played in some amount. If vehicles are a real thing, clones are going to play this guy.
Yeah, launchers will definitely make a comeback.
Yeah.
It's definitely way better than the Rebel and Empire equivalents, which are the MPL Ion and the HH12.
Oh, God. Is the MPL Ion ever going to be good? Who knows?
I think the Snowtrooper Ion gun is actually serviceable right now.
Of course, because they have that free action that makes it so.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree. It's not terrible. But I think the only ion weapon that you're taking in a competitive setting right now is Piston, potentially.
No, man, you're taking a land speeder.
Okay, yeah, maybe land speeder.
Yeah, maybe the M. What the hell do you call the M48, 45? There it is.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the piston gun, but like, yeah.
It's a big,
Yeah.
it's a BFG ion gun.
I just want to put Kyle on record here of saying the only ion gun you'd take in a competitive list is a Pathfinder.
I mean, if you're taking ion,
He's not wrong.
I'm just saying, Mister. I've been advocating for Pathfinders, and you were disagreeing with me for months.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. I'm glad we had this talk.
I mean, I still don't think you're taking them, but I think if you want to take ion, that's the one that you take.
You hear that, everybody? Kyle's lying to us again.
I'd take them if they didn't die to a stiff breeze.
Yeah.
I'd take them if Bistan didn't have anti-synergy with duck and cover.
Yeah, that's the trouble with the Bistan.
Yeah.
He's such a badass dude, though. Like, just looking
Yeah, he's like, I don't need to duck, man. I'm just gonna like sit here with my Ewing door gun and hose you all down.
Yeah, he doesn't duck; he covers, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. He covers
with his gangster lean.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the RPS. What do you think about the personnel upgrades there?
Can we talk about Captain Swole?
Captain Swole.
He's super swole. I mean, look at this art; it's amazing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're all swole, right? They're Space Marines. These are literally Space Marines without calling them Space Marines.
Yeah, they're the Star Wars equivalent. Yeah.
No, so the specialists are interesting. I don't know. I think they mirror the Rebel and Imperial ones, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
Which we actually haven't really talked about yet either.
Yeah, I mean, I think these effects are fine. I don't know.
You're talking about the shotgun, right? So pair it with this captain guy, right? It says when you activate, you cannot remove suppression tokens or be suppressed during this activation. So it doesn't matter, man. As long as this guy's ready, you're gonna get your move shoot. Like it's happening. A fire supported shotgun is happening because this guy's on the field.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, so I think this effect is much better for clones than it is for Rebel and Empire right now, strictly because we do not have officers, right?
Yes.
So like this is the clone way to kind of like get better than one courage on a clone unit right now.
You can also use it to put Overwatch on phase ones.
Yeah,
because you gain training with him.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to
that. Yeah, I mean I think that's definitely the best reason to take this card. But overall, this effect I think is better on clones. As far as for like the Rebel and Empire go, I think it competes a little bit too much with the officer. I think the officers are just like do this most of the time anyways and give you a little bonus.
Yeah, and they do it every turn.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and they do it for a different unit too because of that Inspire 1 that's baked in.
Yeah.
So they can like potentially cover 2 units, not just their own.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like it feels really like a niche effect for the Rebels and the Imperials to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really specifically for the range 2 pairing, because you want to... Suppression has how you've shut down range 2 weapons in the past, and this is just a workaround. You just pay points to work around it.
Yeah.
Which is great, because, I mean, it should be more expensive. You can just ignore suppression. I mean, that's pretty godlike when you think about it.
Yeah. I think the other clone specialist is so much better, though. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, as far as the text effect is concerned.
Yes.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, he's extremely good, too.
Do you want to talk about what it does?
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a gear icon, and it's free action, gain 1 aim, dodge, or surge token.
Yeah, when you exhaust it.
Which on its face, I actually think is not very good. But it's much better, if people are saying that Rex's 2-pip requires an aim token to use. This is a really good way to get it.
Yep. Yeah, and it's only 5 more points than like the normal trooper upgrade. So
yeah, so it's really not that big of a deal. Like, you're mostly paying for the body, right? You're paying for that extra body, but you're also getting this really neat effect. So it's kind of like a premium extra soldier.
Yeah.
It's and it's also the most flexible of the various specialist upgrades. Empire, I think, is aim or surge. Rebel is dodge or surge. Poor Rebels.
I thought they were all aim, dodge, or surge.
No, Rebels.
Is that not true?
Rebels definitely does not have an aim on it.
I don't remember.
There was.
I'm gonna go look this up.
I will bet you.
I'm not betting anything.
Okay.
I love how we like constantly mock dodge tokens, but Tauntauns are running the roost.
Well, they get them,
and part of that is because of their dodges.
but they get them
You're
for
right.
free.
Right.
So
they don't have to do anything other than just like exist to have them.
I mean, they have to.
So the Rebel Trooper Specialist does say dodge or 1 surge.
Yeah, that's bad.
Oof. Yikes.
Well,
Yikes.
I mean, like, I think the Rebel Specialist is a lot better than the Imperial Specialist.
Huh.
Just because Imperials have so many ways to get free aims anyway.
A, yes, and B, the Rebel Specialist is a lot, like, Nimble synergizes way better with free tokens than Precise does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they both. It would have been more interesting if they were swapped. I think if you gave Rebels a way to get aims and Empire a way to get dodges, it would have been more interesting. I think.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I have to say this. If all your dice are hits, like, you surely aim tokens are no longer valuable.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Unless you're clones, then you can share them.
Right. You can make sure everyone else's dice are hits.
But yeah, I think the clone specialist is the best of the various specialists, just because it does give you that flexibility.
I hear that you don't need aim tokens if you're just allowed to flip your blanks to crits.
Right, I know. Yeah, well,
I don't think there are any units we have to worry about that can do that.
Okay. All right. I just as long as we're being salty about it.
Yeah.
I hear that once you notch a model into the end of the movement tool, that's it. You're done.
Yeah, we almost made it an episode without talking about Tauntauns.
It's really hard.
Well,
it's really hard.
They did win. We should actually talk about the Warfaire results too before we get to Legion 101. Just briefly.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about our interview at all in that conversation?
We can preview it, and it may or may not be this week based on whether Mr. Warfare winner and also second place Warfare person can fight through the Banthas and the Wampas to get here in time. But we can talk about the results, I think, one way or the other.
Sure.
It's kind of weird to have a major tournament the past weekend and then not talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as we'd like to.
It's not like they were giving out black dice or anything, because they totally were.
Yeah, they actually had a dice there. Unlike at Nova Open, they had an actual trophy to give out.
Are you salty, Kyle?
No, I even said at the time I didn't really care about the trophy. And in fact, it was still like misprinted. Yeah, it's just sitting in my basement. So our own R1H4 Eric Reha was the winner of Warfare, and he was running Tauntauns. But he was actually the only one with Tauntauns to get an invite. The other 3 were not running anything remotely Tauntaun. So
he wasn't just running Tauntauns, sir. Okay, he was running Tauntauns with triple snipers, with Luke with force push, and 3 Rebel troopers with no heavy weapons.
Success. It's like the meta we've been talking about has come true.
Yeah, kinda. It's also like oh, it's like suddenly the rebels have best units that are not the Z6, and so you just buy those best units, and if it ends up that you have enough points left for 3 rebel troopers, then so be it. But I look at that now, and it's like, man, now if I want to play rebels, I have to pay this 120 point tax of 3 core units.
I mean, they do like objectives and stuff.
That's true. That's true. I can't ignore their importance. But still, it's like, man, if I didn't have to take these, would I? you know, I'm sorry. It's just
I think it's fine.
know.
I mean, like, so I think it's fine that there is an army that does not rely on core units.
Yeah, that's perfectly okay.
The fact that tauntauns are pretty good, that's a different conversation. But
Yeah. We can
the
stop
results were
beating those
pretty
dead
interesting
snow
here,
lizard.
though. The top 4 had every faction in it other than the Grand Army of the Republic.
Yeah, so number 2 was the illustrious LJ Pena, the first to qualify with. Was he not number 2?
He was not number 2. He was number 3.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, he played R1 in the final, or what turned out to be the final.
But there ended up being 3, 4, and 1s, and he was in 3rd place based on SOS.
Okay, well, but he was
not that it's a huge
right, but he's the first to earn a spot, I think, with droids.
Yeah. And then there were 2 other Imperials. I know at least one of them was a shoreline with a tank, I believe. That was Nerfly. And I'm not sure what Ryan played.
I don't have it in front of me.
I'm sure we'll find out in the interview that we have either today or next week.
I guarantee you.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So we've been talking about Warfare Weekend. We're going to go ahead and get Eric and LJ on the line for an interview. So hold tight.
And we're back with Eric Riha, a.k.a. R1H4, and LJ Pena, a.k.a. Talk Polite. How you guys doing?
Doing just fine.
Ready to rumble.
Was that a jazz flute?
It may have been a jazz flute. I may have recently rediscovered the jazz flute, yes.
Nice. Most excellent. Can I ask you guys a favor real quick?
No.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, LJ, I'll ask you. Could you say Notorious?
Notorious.
Sweet. Eric, do you want to try it?
The second part or the first part? Scoundrels.
All right. That's fair. All right.
We gotta patch that together and do a drop.
That's how it'll start. I like it.
Yeah.
Good. It's good. Quality.
Yeah. So you guys were at a tournament this weekend.
Yeah, we were.
That tournament was the Warfare Weekend.
Yeah, Warfare was actually pretty great. And I mean, not for reasons I'm sure we're going to discuss here in a minute. But overall, just like not even talking about winners, losers, factions, any of that. It was just really solid. Like everything was well executed, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a smaller con, and I suppose you could say it's one of the maybe more up and coming conventions in the St. Louis area here, where I guess I now hail from. And I think the show went off without a hitch. We had good playing space, good tables, good access to the bar. I'd say we checked all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Were you furnishing your opponents with shots of White Rhodian?
I indeed did bring the thermos of White Rhodian for day one. Anybody that wanted, I didn't drink very much myself, and by the end of the day, I was dry. So it was a good day.
So what you're saying is you got your opponents drunk and then beat them into the ground.
I don't think I actually got any of my direct opponents drunk, but I may have influenced the rest of the field in the process.
Okay.
Yeah, he got me feeling pretty great before my second game, let me tell you.
So let's talk real quick. How many players did you end up with, roughly?
It was 24.
Yeah, 24 overall. I think we had a couple drops by the next day, but overall, it was still a pretty solid field of folks. In fact, I'd say the majority of people were probably coming in from out of town. And we had quite a few sort of maybe higher ranked folks on the old Legion ladder, if we had one, show up to the event.
Yeah, I was anxiously following tabletop online TTO on Friday and Saturday just to see like who was matched up and how the games were going, because it was, 24 is it's a good sized tournament for a convention that has never had Legion before, but the field was definitely fairly competitive. Still, a lot of known competitive Legion players that showed up to that. So, do you guys want to talk real quick about what lists you brought to Warfare? Let's do R1 first, and then LJ.
Sure. So I was bringing some Tauntauns that I had almost completed my paint job on. They had a bit of a rush contrast paint job, but we can maybe get into that later, maybe not. But anyway, I was running an officer with strict orders. Commander Luke Skywalker with just force push. 3 naked rebel troopers, 3 sniper strike teams, and 3 tauntauns, all with tenacity, 2 with uplink, and 1 with comms jammer, for a total of 796 points.
So you're on board the naked rebel trooper train?
I don't know if I want to say I'm on board with it. I have been experimenting with it, and I had never actually played this particular list before. I had obviously run a number of different Tauntaun lists with Leia, with Operative Luke, and some of the Invader League round robin games and things like that. But I had never actually played this iteration of things, and it seemed to work out pretty well. The ability to get objectives done while also freeing up the majority of points in your force to do the combat seems to work out pretty well. I don't know if it'll always work out that way. I don't know if there are some significant weaknesses that you can run into later. But for the opponents and other lists I ran into, it worked out well.
Have you played any rebel lists without tauntauns?
I have not played any rebel lists without tauntauns.
so would you say,
Oh boy!
would you say that you're a fair weather rebel fan?
No, we're gonna call him an enemy of the state.
I might be an enemy of the state. And to be completely honest, I was about 3 minutes from running a Palpatine list for the event, and decided at the very last minute, you know what? I'm just going to try this ridiculous setup with these 3 naked rebel troopers. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, whatever. It's no big deal. And it turns out it's pretty good.
As David has said in the past, tauntauns polish many a turd.
Well, and I happen to be the largest of them, so they're doing a good job.
Just real quick before we get to LJ's list, would you make any changes with some of the upcoming releases to include Operative Luke and R2?
Well, I don't know, and that's a really good question, because I think some of the Invader League matches we've seen so far have shown that R2 is pretty solid. In Operative Luke is also pretty good, but in some cases, the ability to be able to hit, I mean, it didn't come in handy all the time, right? But the 3 snipers, when I did have to face Imperials or clones, they really punched above their weight. Against droids or rebels, maybe not so much. But it's one of those things where you have at least a tool for every task in that particular setup, and 11 activations to boot. Getting R2 in there usually means you have to drop an officer or a sniper and then kind of figure out where the rest of those points go. And maybe that's just what you have to do. But I think the only thing I would really change is put in serve your master well instead of ambush as the 1 pip and call it a day.
Would you still run? Well, I guess what command cards did you run is a question, and is that the only one you swap out with the operative blue cards?
I think it would be maybe I would swap in I am a Jedi for assault. Assault did come in handy a number of times when I still had to issue orders to all the tauntauns early on in the matches, usually assault. Even standing orders did get played every once in a while. I am a Jedi can be strong, but it is definitely more of a niche card. I don't know. Over a large event, I guess that needs more. I'd say it needs more testing, at least for me.
All right, LJ, you want to tell us what you brought?
Sure. So I was one of 2 people at the event that brought some droids along. I ran what I call to be, kind of my standard build. I kind of see it right now. There's only a couple ways to run droids because of obvious limitations. And this is the one that I've felt so far throughout my own testing has been the most strongest. You've got General Grievous with aggressive tactics, strict orders, tenacity, and his Annihilator pistol. 6 B1s, 4 with an E5C and an extra trooper, 2 with a rocket, extra trooper, and HQ uplink. And then last but not least, double droidica with linked targeting array. Comes in at 800 at the dot.
And so I think you're the first person to qualify with the droids. Is that accurate?
As far as I can tell, I am. I'm kind of waiting to see if any reports come in from the previous weekend right after things came out. And if there was any other, RPQs primes that happened during Warfare weekend. So there is a small chance that I'm not, but I'm starting to think that I was, which is kind of cool. That was actually one of my goals. Obviously you go there to win a qualifier spot, but I wanted to see if I could put that feather in my hat, and I think I was able to. So that was kind of nice.
So the droids also have some upcoming releases. Do any of those affect what you'd be bringing with them?
I think so. I've kind of been testing a lot of different stuff on the side, based on what we know. And, those of you who've been paying attention to Invader probably know that I ran Dooku Grievous a couple times. And, that's a list that some opponents just don't have answers for sometimes. It's not always the best list, whereas this one that I ran is kind of an all-comers that I felt like all weekend could kind of handle whatever was thrown at it pretty decently. But I'm very excited to run Dooku Grievous and 6 E5Cs. And if I can put the money together, Dooku Grievous and 6 of the droid snipers, because that one in particular has been really effective in my playtesting.
So, do you want to talk real quick about the droid snipers? Because we actually talked about them briefly earlier on the show, because they did have that spoiler article last week. Do you want to just talk about what you feel the benefits are of them over the E5s and why you'd take 6 of them?
Yeah. So you're only losing out on 1 die from the E5C to the sniper. So the ceiling is very similar. And, when you throw 7, 8, 9 dice in your pool, you're pretty much always going to roll at least 1 surge. So I like the way it pairs with the B1s, because for the most part, you were just kind of hoping that you were going to get some lucky crits and hit through anyway. But I found when I was playing it, especially versus clones, the dice that was going through cover was pretty much exclusively crits. So not only was it going through and hitting the target, that I wanted to, but clones in particular could not use any tricks like Esteemed Leader with Obi-Wan, Guardian with Obi-Wan, to take those hits away from the clones and, funnel to somewhere else. And so, I really think they are going to be an effective part of the droid army. And it kind of allows your B1s to stand back and just aim, shoot, while your other big heavy hitters go in and do damage. And if your heavy hitters can take all of the focus off your B1 line, that's a lot of dice that aren't being chipped away at anymore because they're too busy trying to deal with Grievous Dooku. And so I like the fact that I can kind of create like a bit of a standoff range with them and just kind of fire for as long as I can without having to move. And, that I can still have great control of the army, even as the battle develops, because that B1 line is just so efficient at coordinating down. And because they're staying farther away, again, because of the snipers, I find that I keep that line together for a little longer compared to when I run the E5Cs.
Do you ever run into issues with AI, or do you find that you typically have face-ups, so you don't even run into that?
I'd say in the 3 or 4 games I've ran with the snipers, I haven't had AI trigger once.
Yep, that sounds about right. Do you guys want to talk real quick about like which battle cards you cut from your deck, and then how you tend to approach turn 0, which objectives and conditions you try and look for?
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Sure.
So I, given the I guess you could say the 3 naked rebel troopers, I guess the traditional cut, right, at least from an objective standpoint, when you're running tauntauns, is sabotage. I kept those in. I kept in sabotage and pulled recover. I didn't like the idea of sending Luke out there all by his lonesome to try to get something. Sure, he'd have a bunch of tauntauns and probably could make it work, but given the fact that I still had 3 units to essentially do all of the work, or the leg work for the objectives, that was only 120 points out of 800. I had plenty of extra space, I guess you could say, plenty of capability to attack my opponent while also doing an objective like sabotage. So kept that in the deck, cut recover, obviously cut long march and hostile environment for the tauntauns. I made that mistake once and I won't make it again.
What about you, LJ?
So I've actually been messing around a little bit with what I've been cutting from this list, but I think for the droids, I've pretty much been landing on recover until we get Dooku. Then it kind of changes the calculus on that a little bit. So I have also been cutting recover, though the couple times it's been forced, I luckily have not played somebody that's been exceedingly good at it, like a Boba or Jin box grab shenanigans. And it goes okay because Grievous wants you to go to the middle so he can murder you. But me personally, I've been trying to cut that from my deck. I really don't have a lot of problems with a lot of the conditions. Normally, if I am the blue player, I'm probably not playing Tauntauns because Tauntauns like to bid for Lim Vis. So I've actually been leaving limited visibility in there because I found if I can go a turn or two without taking basically any wounds on my army at all, most armies don't actually have the damage output to kill that by turn 6. And so I've been leaving that in there and actually taking out Minefield just because in a tournament, it tends to suck up a bit too much time. And I just don't like dealing with it personally. So that's been kind of my condition cut. And as far as deployment goes, I've actually been getting rid of Disarray just because it makes it easier for everything to hit at the same time and be a cohesive force, which is, when I can kind of make a wheel per se and kind of shut the door on my opponent and have the entire line hit at the same time, I tend to find that works best for this setup. And so I got rid of Disarray, even though, I think Long March has been one. I've talked to a lot of other droid players that they've cut that. I really don't mind it so much because it actually is really easy to keep your coordinate chain together and still play the objectives when you're playing the shorter edges instead of the long edges. So those have been kind of my cuts. And as far as what the favorites have been, I think either major offensive or advanced positions is great for droids for, I'm sure, what are pretty obvious reasons. Key positions is probably my favorite objective right now, just because the droidicas can, wheel themselves onto the center KP or even your opponent's key position, in the final stages of the game and score points, which people forget about because they're not used to vehicles being able to score. And, I've pulled some tricks on breakthrough too, also with wheel mode droidicas and getting them into the objective, which I know Endless lamented in his games versus Deco. And then as far as conditions go, I actually try to force hostile as much as possible because the droids are just so resilient to suppression. And I mean, with strict orders, I've been pulling off an average of like 10 to 12 suppression a game over the course of a game for 5 points. And, a lot of people forget that the droids can manage that suppression so well and really don't mind holding on to it.
Boy, you just can't beat that value.
No, not for 5 points. It's crazy.
It turns out getting all your core units face-ups with strict orders is pretty,
pretty good. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm a simple history teacher, not a math teacher, but that feels like an opportunity even Joe Buck would jump on.
So you guys played, you were both undefeated going into the final game. So you guys played in what ultimately was the final match. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
That is an accurate statement, yes.
Yes, I managed to avoid Eric until the end of the day. I was very happy about that.
Do you guys want to talk about it? Tell us about your match.
I don't want to talk about it. Do you really want to talk? No, it's fine. I mean, really, I didn't hate that match. I thought I'd have a lot less of a chance than I did. And there was actually, that roll, what was it? I think in the second turn where the rocket squad hit the squad that was on your Vaporator and did not kill them. I thinking back and reflecting on that game, that mattered a lot more than I initially thought it did.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I still ended up winning by 2 instead of by 1 if you had managed to kill that guy. But it is a fair point. It is a fair point. So we ended up playing on the I don't know, the granite quarry, the cubes, if you will. If anybody has seen that map before.
The chicken bouillon cubes.
Yes, mm-hmm. the granite bouillon cubes. Yes, it presented a lot of opportunities for blocked line of sight on both sides. There was a large array of some equipment, turbo laser in the middle, and things like that. That ultimately, when we put our vaporators down, I placed mine relatively close to my deployment zone. We were playing major offensive, clear conditions, and vaporators. And LJ boldly chose to put his vaporator down on basically as close as he could get to mine, while also still being distance 1 from his, and also blocked by a sort of a large cube or a rectangular shaped box that sort of separated us at the panhandle of his major offensive deployment zone. And after he sort of set up all of his guys, I decided to I'll throw all my tauntauns over on up against this panhandle. And, chaos sort of ensued from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say chaos ensued is a mild way to put it, considering the picture I have on my phone of Grievous being mounted by a tauntaun.
Yes. At the end of the day, I think Grievous saved like a champ.
He did.
And I think he ended up taking at least 3 separate tauntaun charges. Before eventually being brought down, I think even just by naked rebel trooper fire?
Yeah, I think in total he took 3 separate tauntaun charges, a Luke son of Skywalker, your generic officer, and like maybe 2 or 3 different attacks from basic rebel troopers. I mean, he really did take a lot. And the reason why he was in that specific predicament was because we played 1 pip v 1 pip, and I rushed my Grievous into his Luke to see if I could just take him down. And I almost pulled it off. I almost pulled the 1 shot off, ended up doing 4 wounds. I think it was 4 wounds on the charge with Grievous's 1 pip, and then an additional wound from the card effect. And then on the next turn, I won the roll off again and took a pistol shot at Luke and was not able to kill him. And so Grievous tried so hard to just wipe Luke off. And I think if I would have killed him before the Son of Skywalker, it really would have changed the way that fight on that side of the board went. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. And the Tauntauns cleaned up.
Yeah, they did. And I kind of forced his hand. The comms jammer Tauntaun charged in turn one and was able to not necessarily get into melee contact, but was able to get close enough to a B1 squad on that sort of peninsula. And then it was round two. No, round two was my ally was the Force and Supreme Commander on your end.
Mm-hmm.
And Luke was able to essentially jump in and force push Grievous into the Tawns, and also putting him in range so that if he did, if I won the initiative roll, Grievous would be engaged with two targets, one Taun, one Luke Skywalker, so he wouldn't be able to charge into the rest of my army. But instead, he won the roll and made a game of it. It was an exciting one. We do have some dirty pictures of 4 Tauntauns surrounding Grievous. Turns out that is the most you can actually have surrounding Grievous. Is 4, and yeah, it was a good match. It was a wild one.
Well, congrats to both of you guys. The other two invites went to Nerfly, aka Brad.
Okay, the Submariner. Yep.
Yeah. We've been giving him a hard time because he lost his first match and then he went 4-0 the rest of the way. And then Ryan Jekyll and then you two. So congrats to everybody.
Yeah, Ryan was I think a new player, at least on the scene that I had noticed. I played him in round 3, and he had not played against too many Rebel players with Tawns before. So unfortunately, unfortunately for him, I got to teach him some new tricks while we were playing. He was that actually made him much better prepared for the next round he had to fight against Stevens, actually, with his Tawns, and he was able to come out with a win there.
Well, it sounds like it was a super awesome weekend. I saw some pictures from some kind of Benihana or something like that.
There was definitely a teppanyaki a party that was going on later. Ed or whatever Edward spelled backwards, however you pronounce that, on the Discord, invited us all out for some dinner afterwards. The new guy got to play some, as the chef called it, Japanese football, catching shrimp in his mouth. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. It was fun times.
Yeah, that was great.
Awesome.
I mean, that's one of the best parts of going to these things is doing stuff like that over the course of a weekend, and the memories that'll last a lifetime, to say the least.
That's right.
Yeah, it's you like we rarely get to see each other except at conventions, and you see all kinds of people that you chat with regularly, but just don't see in person. Well, thanks, gents, for coming on. Let's end this on a slightly bittersweet note. LJ, you have been the organizer, force behind Invader League for the first. This is season 4, I think, right? So the first 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about yourself and the future of Invader League?
Yeah. I spent a lot of time thinking about kind of how and when I wanted to, maybe end things and what that looked like for me, because I knew that things were going to get busier here over this next year. And for me, that seemed to be like a perfect, thing to leave behind, not because I wasn't enjoying it or I didn't want to do it anymore, but because I felt like that's one of the projects I've been involved with in the last 2 years that has done the best and has the best kind of support staff remaining, and has been one of, the more successful things that I've had my hand in. And so I have a lot coming up this upcoming year in the spring. We should have a battery command position coming up here on the military side of the house, as well as my wife and I expecting our first child. And so I wanted to try to clear something from this upcoming year. And, I saw how well everybody worked before this season started, which I know, you've probably seen a little bit too, how the team has really worked together to nail a lot of things this season. And that kind of told me all I needed to know, that it was time to move forward and kind of let it grow under new management as it was. And so fast forward to a couple weeks ago, week and a half now, to where I was playing my game versus Undead Guy. And I caught the very end of the show that Nerf Lee and John Griffin did, where they were talking about the odds. And I saw that I was 10-1 to win that game, which was the highest odds out of all the round one matchups, the play-in matchups. And I thought to myself, well, I better not screw this up. So I played the game. And I think the first 2 or 3 turns, things didn't go 100% the way I wanted, but for the most part, it was looking pretty good. And about halfway through the game, I kind of I didn't want to play anymore. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of exhausted. And I told myself, I'm just going to continue to go ham in this game. I'm going to get super aggressive. I'm going to push this list to the limit and really see what Dooku Grievous can do. And if I lose, then that's the sign that I need. And all credit to my opponent. He really held what was getting thrown in his face at bay and made a couple great plays to round the game out, especially his turn 6 play, his command card that kind of surprised the casters as well as myself. And I ended up losing it. And so I took that post game as an opportunity to let people know, hey, this is going to be it for me. I'm going to move on to other stuff, and that's kind of what prompted this whole process that the last week and a half has been.
Well, congratulations! It sounds like you got a lot of more important things than Legion coming up there.
More important things than Legion. What is this, Trav? This is a Legion podcast, right? This is what we're supposed to be doing. All right. It sounds like a bunch of excuses to me, but all right, okay.
Yeah, my biggest critic over here was talking me through my adult decision here in the exact way he described. But
I mean, babies do pretty much take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's true. It's like Steven said, you just give them a little bit of sunlight and water them, and they're fine, right?
Yeah, that's more or less it.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty much. I'm sure Jay is shaking his head behind the glass there.
He's always shaking his head behind the glass.
But anyway, no, I mean, it really came at a great time, to be perfectly honest, because I have been letting the Legion tournament circuit stuff kind of lag behind, and there's a lot of work that I need to do there to get ready for the next kind of season of Legion, as it were, and an update based off what we've seen change in Legion and the way that the game has shifted. And so there's a lot of work that I need to do there that this kind of gives me the off season now to focus on when I would have been working on other Invader stuff. So that, that was kind of a positive change that I was looking forward to. And I mean, on the other side of the coin, I'm pretty sure most people in the Legion community saw the announcement that I got to share from FFG Marketing. And so now that is a connection that myself and some of the other admins have made with Fantasy Flight Games, we actually have the opportunity and are currently working on a series of articles that are going to be on the Fantasy Flight Games website.
That's pretty exciting. They also are going to announce release dates and stuff, or at least approximate release dates, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. As soon as something leaves the warehouse, they're going to turn around and let us know that it has left the warehouse, so we don't have to wait for, a certain Spanish website or your favorite distributor letting us know, the week before. We should have more concrete dates and just a direct line. And, one of the things that Evan told me was, what do you guys want to see? What do you want? How do you want to contribute, and how do we want to grow this relationship? And it's just been such a positive relationship thus far, and I can only expect it to get to get better and to turn into an avenue to continue to talk to the developers of the game, and not just Luke and Alex, but anybody that has a hand in making Legion. People like Derek that are kind of the unsung heroes that do the work that we enjoy without us realizing it, but then also turn that spotlight around and put it on, content creators. Or maybe we'll finally get a, hey, Luke Cook, you won Worlds article. Do you want to talk about it? Stuff like that I think the community would genuinely enjoy. And so I'm really looking forward to, as I said earlier, kind of seeing where that develops.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to be riding off into the sunset. You still got LVO too.
Yeah, no.
Which I assume you're not doing anything. You're not going anywhere on.
No, the work is definitely not done yet. This was just kind of the first in a series of dominoes as far as kind of clearing off the plate, as it were, for next year. I went to Warfaire with the intent to win a spot, and I did, which means I'm going to participate in 2020 Worlds. And so basically everything up to the end of March that I was committed to, I am planning on fully seeing through, to include LVO and then eventually Worlds. After that, I think we're going to kind of see where things are at. I might try to release a couple more responsibilities as we get closer to summer 2020. But we'll kind of see, where that takes me and how much I can handle, because I do think I'm not bad at multitasking and kind of working a lot of things at the same time, but I feel like I'm at the point where I'm almost tapped out, where I've got too much going on at the same time. And I think gradually releasing a few things like this is going to bring up the quality of the other things that I'm involved in.
Well, it should be exciting a few months for Legion. The communication from FFG has definitely been good. So, Arwen, I have a question for you as we close. Are you going to bring Tauntauns to Worlds?
Boy, that is it's a bit of a odd question. Maybe. I have to think. It really depends, right? I've been playing Tauntauns for, I guess you could say, enough games now to say, if these guys, took a little bit of a hit somewhere either in the rules department or the points department, maybe that's justified. Yeah, there's ways to beat them, but you're kind of swimming upstream when you do, and it could be tough. Maybe we haven't solved that particular puzzle yet. Maybe there's not a good solution out there, and so you do need some adjustments there. I think it'll largely depend on whether or not we do see some adjustments. At the same time, if the vehicle meta becomes especially strong, then Tauntauns in general are still going to be difficult to put on the board successfully every single time if you're staring down an ATST or a tank, etc. So we'll see.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's going to be not one but 3 tanks to worry about potentially by then. So,
and one that can even dodge the crits off of my RAM. I'm not a fan of that. But hey, that's life in the big
city. Yep. All right. Well, thanks, gents. Congratulations to both of you, and good luck with your. We'll see you definitely in March at Adepticon. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks again.
Well, that was our interview with LJ and R1H4, the winner of Warfare Weekend. And I think that's going to do it for our episode this week for Notorious Scoundrels. I'm David.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Kyle.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Join us next week for another episode of the Notorious Scoundrels.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.